15 years ago, I attended a college in a historical downtown area in Savannah, Georgia. One late afternoon, I was walking back to the dorm, and it was my birthday, so I was really excited to get back to my room and meet up with friends later. I was walking and thinking about my plans for the night. Then I heard some catcalling from behind. A group of men in a large, beat-up black van drove by me, slowed down and hung their heads out the windows to leer and yell at me once they got my attention. I was more pissed off than scared, mostly since it was broad daylight with lots of other cars and people present. I just tried not to avert my eyes from them and glared back to let them know I wasn't frightened. They laughed and sped up, turned a quick right in the cross street in front of me and drove off. A minute or two goes by and the van comes back from the same side of the street and slows down beside me. That took me off guard. What the hell are they going to do? It was 3 p.m. Cars and people and even a few police cars were present as well. I tried to ignore them, but I was getting more flustered and anxious. One of the guys leaned his head out and spat on the ground next to me and then drove off again, turning down the street in front of me again. I realized they were just circling around the square so they could turn around and drive next to me again. I was getting really close to my dorm and I started speeding up the pace. Once more, they drove next to me again, but instead of slowing down, they kept going, and then they stopped a couple 100 feet and parked on the side. Okay, now I'm worried. I kept telling myself they weren't going to do anything with people and police and cars around. I figured it wasn't worth it. Whatever it was they were trying to do, I ducked down another street in a near convention center. When I did, the van abruptly left and drove off again. I went through the convention, waited a couple minutes, exit, and turned down the sidewalk that led to the main street. I didn't see them, so I figured I'd beeline across a small walkway with stairs going down to a lower path that led to the dorm on the other side, so home stretch. As I crossed the street, I saw the van with all the doors open and no one inside. I tried not to stop, afraid the guys might be hiding behind it, and just made for the walkway. One of the guys popped out and said, "Hey, I gotta talk to you. How was your trip from Mississippi? We tried calling you, but you wouldn't answer?" I was in panic mode and just booked it past them and luckily saw a group of other college students coming up the walkway. I waved them down like we were all friends. The dude immediately went back into the van and drove off. The students asked if I was okay and what that guy was up to and if he was selling drugs or something. Coming to realize that, yeah, maybe that was it. Just a really shady and aggressive out in broad daylight drug deal with a 20-something college student. I said the guy followed me here and that there were others with him, but when he drove off it appeared empty. So where were the other guys? Back in my dorm, I calmed down and waited for my roommate to come back from class. She was a bit freaked out about the whole thing and asked if I still wanted to go out for my birthday, which I did since I would be around people and my friends. We all went to a local bar/pizzeria and I told a story which got the attention of a friend's boyfriend who works part-time as a security guard for a hotel nearby. He said he'd heard a group of guys trying to pull a girl into a van who managed to get away and no one got the license plate to report it to the police. I started taking the college bus after that. I never saw the van or those guys ever again. I'm nearly 40 now, and I still think about them and what could have happened and how possible abductions can happen in public areas, in broad daylight and close to home. There was a kid in my class who everyone thought was creepy. He would harass the girls in our class and get in fights with the boys if they ever told him to stop. He was taller than most kids in our year, but I had never been afraid of him. However, I was cautious around him in case he would try and do anything, as I've caught him trying to put his hand up my skirt before. Usually he would follow a certain girl for about a week and that would be it. He would go to someone else. Since we were all 9 years old, and if I was to ever file a police report for sexual harassment, nothing would happen. We all knew this as it happened many times before and we did not attend a good school so they didn't do anything to help. Not telling his parents, suspending or expelling him. Then it happened. He started to follow me around and ask me out several times. At this point I didn't care because I thought it would be all over quick. Then weeks turned into months, months into years. We were 11 now, and I didn't even try to tell the police as I thought they wouldn't take me seriously, and the worst part about it was that he would follow me home. Sometimes I would look out my bedroom window and see him by my front door trying frantically to open it, or he would be stalking the property waiting for me to come out and tell him to leave, but I never did. I didn't want to see him outside of the school, and I'm glad I didn't, because according to the boys in my class, he had done things like write my name all over his school books. I'm in high school now, and I just hope I never see him again. A long time ago, when I was about 14, I'm 23 now for time reference, my mom, one of my younger brothers, and I were all at home. At the time, my mom was in the US Army, so our family was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas. We had lived there for some time and had some creepers and whatnot looking through windows before we got our home on base, so being watched isn't as scary to us as it was to most people. Even before living here, we had those issues. This was different though. For a few weeks, my brother, who was about 10, had noticed the webcam light on. Now our computer was in our dining room, which overlooked the kitchen, laundry room, and the entrance to the living room and our back door, so we could see a good portion other than the living room. So we were a bit concerned. We kept an eye on it for a few days and would notice it would go off and back on at random times. We would check the webcam window to see if it was left on or was opened, but it never was. So being two females and a young boy, we were rightfully a bit scared, so we put some tape over the webcam and forgot about it. Fast forward about maybe 4 days later, we had noticed the tape was gone. None of us would take the tape off, and if we had, we would have put it right back. And I'm sure our mom would video chat across seas sometimes, so of course, but she would always put it back. The light was on again with no window. Then suddenly, once we were all looking at it, off. At that point, we knew it wasn't a glitch. Someone was watching us. We decided to make a sign to put in front of the webcam. The sign read, "We know you're there," and we put it in front of the webcam. We wait and wait, but nothing. I assumed they were gone, waiting for us to forget about the light and computer so they could continue watching us without worry. Then suddenly, the light came on. My mom and I saw the light come on, stayed on for about 20 seconds to read the sign, and then shut off. We hoped that would be it and we would be done. I mean, why keep watching if we know, and would call the police. Halfway through that thought, we heard the backyard gate slam shut. We ran to the window to check what it was and saw nothing at all, but we were too scared to go outside. Yeah, we were used to it, but we're not that stupid. There was silence for about 10 seconds when we heard the gate slam again, and again, and again. We were suddenly terrified. Whoever was watching us was outside of our house. Then suddenly there was banging on the wall from the outside. We screamed so loudly, but later found out no one heard us. Then more banging from a different end of the house from outside, and then more from the front. There were multiple people banging as hard as possible from all the ends of the house. Keep in mind, it was a duplex building, so we were attached to another home and they heard nothing. My brother was so terrified he ran and grabbed a baseball bat. We stopped him from going outside though, cause he's 10. So big sister mode kicks in. I round him up into the laundry room, which is the safest room in the house for immediate danger. As I do that, the banging all at once suddenly just stops. It's quiet as can be, and we're frozen in place trying to listen. Nothing but quietness. As soon as it started, it was over. Our webcam light stopped coming on after that, and needless to say, we always had a piece of tape covering the camera when we weren't using it. We never had anything like that happen again. And then we heard our back gate, but we chopped that up to wind. I have to point out again, however, we lived on a military base. The only way in is with a military ID card or a visiting pass, which has to be granted. These people, with how quickly they got to our home, they had to have been in the military. There was no way a civilian just got on base. Even if they did, they would have to be staying by our home to have gotten there that quickly. After that, I'm more scared of my surroundings. I always close the shades and cover the cameras. I never want that to ever happen again. When I was growing up, my mom, sister, and I were walking around an outdoor shopping center one afternoon after leaving Target with our bags when we noticed a dirty blonde man walking behind us. There was something odd about him, even though he was dressed normally. He was getting closer and we realized he was moving faster, so we walked into the closest store, which was a movie store. Afterwards, he started looking around but staying close to each other and the register. Our hearts were racing and we had called my dad to come get us. Every time we looked up, we locked eyes with him. Even though there were more of us, I was terrified. I finally gained the confidence to tell the cashier that we were being followed by the man in the store and he told him to get out. Our dad called us and told us he was waiting outside and we exited looking around everywhere. We could see him from far away and he saw that we were no longer alone, though he didn't follow us. The fear that day is something I still carry with me. That was the last time I walked to the store when I knew it would get dark soon. So before this all took place, I went to get McDonald's in the nearest city to us, which is about 20 minutes away. After that, I decided to go down to my grandma's house instead of going straight home. For context, she lives down a long farm road to which you also have to turn off down a half-mile dirt driveway just to get to her house. I arrived there around 9 p.m. and I went in and visited with my grandmother and my brother who lives with her ever since my grandpa passed away, so that she won't have to live down there all alone. My brother and I took out my grandma's dog to pee around 10:30 p.m. and we just sat outside listening to music and talked for a while. At that point I was starting to get cold because this is East Texas and I'm not used to getting it down in the low 40s at night, so I was about ready to head inside. I noticed something moving in the corner of my eye near the large metal shop that sits a few hundred yards from the house. I didn't really take too much notice though because it is not uncommon for deer or raccoons to come snooping around the yard, and plus my grandma's dog wasn't barking, so I thought it might have been just my eyes playing tricks on me. We finally headed back inside and my grandma went to sleep around 11 p.m. so me and my brother stayed and played Among Us and watched YouTube for a while. At around 2:30 a.m. I was very tired and ready to go home, so I asked my brother to walk with me to the door and make sure that I got to my car because I am always very paranoid, especially at night. He joked around and said that he would turn off the light and lock the door, and I freaked out and begged him to walk me out to the car, to which he finally humored me. I got in my car and immediately locked the doors and I saw the porch light turn off as I was driving off back down the dirt road. I got home within 10 minutes and fixed myself some ice cream before I sat down and enjoyed some creepy horror stories on YouTube. Another 15 or so minutes passed by and I got a FaceTime call from my brother, to which I picked up almost immediately. I could tell that he was freaked out about something, but he wasn't saying anything right away, so I asked him what was wrong. The following is my best attempt to paraphrase what my brother told me. He said that after I left, that he went back outside to listen to some music and sit on the porch. He had the music on his phone up pretty loud, which would usually mask any noise of animals coming from the nearby woods. After a few minutes of listening to music, he said that he heard what he thought to be sounds of metal banging around, so he quickly paused the music and listened to see if he could hear the sound again. He stood up and looked towards the shop and the boat shed, which are adjacent to each other and are a few hundred yards away from where he was standing. He saw a faint light shining around near the boat shed, but then it quickly flicked off. At this point he was freaking out, so he quietly crept back inside the house and locked the door behind him. He said that he ran to his room in the back of the house, I guess not thinking to wake up our grandma, and he grabbed his revolver. He quickly ran back outside and saw the glow of the flashlight move around and then quickly shut off as soon as he noticed it. He walked out to the edge of the concrete carport and stared out towards the boat shed with his revolver down at his side. The only thing illuminating the boat shed was the faint light coming from the house. He said that he tried to muster up the most intimidating voice he could manage and said, "Who the hell is out there?" To which there was no immediate reply except for a slight bumping sound, which solidified the fact that someone was indeed there. Now keep in mind, this is just out in the middle of the country in a town with a population of just over 1,000 people, and the nearest house is across the lake or miles down the farm road, so no well-meaning person would just happen to stumble across my grandma's house this late at night. Also, my grandma has had problems with people snooping around the property in the past, so this is not something any of us take lightly. And for the life of me, I can't tell you why my brother just didn't call the police. But you also have to remember that there is literally one cop in our entire town, and it is 3 a.m. And so it would take at least 30 minutes for the cops to even show up. So anyway, my brother again called for the person to show themselves and repeated his questions and asked the person to identify themselves. He said that he practically shit his pants as a tall, lanky figure slowly emerged from the boat shed with a flashlight in hand. Although my brother couldn't see any distinct features about this person, he could definitely tell that it was an older man and that it was no one that we knew. It was especially not anyone that should be in our boat shed at 3 a.m. At this point, he raised the revolver up to point at the man and again shouted, "Who the fuck are you?" The man was still silent and began slowly walking towards him. My brother pulled back the hammer of the revolver and gave one last verbal warning to the man and said, "I swear I will blow your fucking head off. Now who are you and why are you here?" The man quickly raised his hands up and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, calm down, man," in a taunting voice as he continued walking towards my brother. My brother fired a single shot just above the man's head, to which he finally took that as his cue that my brother meant business. The man hurriedly took off on foot back down the driveway and my brother screamed, "Next time, I won't miss." My brother then quickly ran inside to wake up my grandma, who had somehow slept through the entire commotion. She didn't seem worried enough to actually call the police, but of course, after hearing this, all I can think about was, what were the true intentions of that man? Was he just some meth head snooping around looking to steal some tools for drug money? Or was his intentions much more sinister? Another question that haunts me about this whole situation is, how many times has this happened after my grandma and brother went to bed and we just didn't know? And was he watching us from the shadows all night? Was he watching me as I walked out to my car? What would have happened if my brother had actually turned off the lights and locked the door before I can get to my car? So the stranger who tried to rob us for dear knows God what at 3 a.m, I hope you learned your lesson.